Is Rachel Reeves all right? In a series of bizarre interviews over the last week, the Chancellor is looking more and more exhausted, raising questions about whether she's still up to the top job. What do you make of this?
Today, the Business Secretary is announcing inward investment in the car manufacturing sector in Sunderland. And it's why I announced a deal this week to help British business export more to China.
Yeah, she's looking a little tired there, but despite the pressure, the Shadow Chancellor has proclaimed herself the Iron Chancellor. It's a rather bold title, isn't it? One that conjures up images of Margaret Thatcher-esque confidence, a steely resolve to tackle the toughest economic challenges. But let's be honest, does Rachel really look like someone who's as ironclad as Thatcher, or is she more tinfoil than titanium? Of course, the Chancellor has defended her handling of the economy. She told the House of Commons the economic headwinds being faced by the UK meant the government had to go further and faster in their plan to kickstart economic growth, slamming the previous Tories government handling of the economy. And then there's her recent anecdote about her mum.
We didn't have loads of money. We weren't poor. My mum was a primary school teacher, as I said. My parents split up when I was at primary school, so we didn't have loads of money. And so she needed to make sure that everything that she was spending, she could afford. And I remember that very vividly, her sitting at the kitchen table with the receipts, and she kept them all, and her bank statements, and ticked them off to make sure she knew she wasn't overspending compared with the income that she had coming in.
All right, fair enough. Well, Reeves has shared that her mother was very careful with money coming in and out. And you'd assume this is a metaphor for how she's running the economy and how she runs her own finances, right? Well,
it make you wince.
What makes me wince is when I look at my bank statement and I find that the money coming in is increasingly short of the money going out.
Yeah, that's despite the Chancellor declaring over £350,000 in earnings in 2023, a year before that interview took place. I don't know about you, but that sends shivers down my spine. How can you get yourself in the red with all that money? And to top it all off, when she was Shadow Chancellor, she was happy to call out stagnating GDP figures and low growth under the Tories, but not the exact same economic conditions. That the rhetoric has entirely changed since she's created that for our British economy.
We have now drawn a line under the inheritance that I faced. Public finances are now on a firm footing, and also our public services are funded in a proper way. And we've now set the envelope for those public services for the rest of this Parliament, which means we're not going to have to come back for more.
Well, if this is the Iron Chancellor in action, one can't help but wonder if the rust is already showing. It's just a bit rich, isn't it? Like, maybe the Chancellor should rebrand herself the Irony Chancellor instead of the Iron Chancellor. But let's get the thoughts of my panel on this. Political consultant Suzanne Evans, Director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe, journalist and broadcaster, JJ Anasobi. I'm almost there, all right? It's a longer walk than it looks like, all right? All right, JJ. She called for Liz Truss to resign. The Labour Party called for Liz Truss to resign. We had far worse economic conditions. Surely it's time to go, right?
Tony Blair said a few months ago that Labour, when in government, should be careful about calling for the opposition to resign. Don't be saying things just too rash, because when it's your turn, the same will apply to you. And they should have taken heed of Sir Tony's words. And by the way, Stephen, I love Tony Blair. Best Prime Minister we ever had. Regardless.
I can hear the viewers.
Kwasi Kwarteng, the former Chancellor, who was famously sacked by Truss, he's come out today and said Keir Starmer cannot sack Reeves. If he does, he'll be the next one to go straight away. And for that reason, he doesn't think that Reeves will be in danger.
Form, isn't it? I mean, I remember talking to Kwasi Kwarteng when he was fired after the Liz Truss mini budget, and he said to her, "Don't fire me because it will be you next." Of course, he was absolutely right. But this Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, she is so far out of her depth. She needs a submarine to go and rescue her.
Very good. Very good.
I'm no economist by any means, but my goodness, I've got a better grasp of economy and business than she has. It's a disaster. She keeps talking about growth. That's the thing. Growth. She hasn't got a clue about growth. She's got so little clue. She's got to go and ask other people, what do I do to get growth? Her budget was a completely anti-growth budget. The economy has tanked since. You know, before that budget under Rishi Sunak, who I wasn't the greatest fan of, the economy was, and to quote the Office of Budget Responsibility, going gangbusters. And now here we are, stagnation for the last quarter of 2024. A disaster. She really is dreadful. She hasn't got a clue.
Look, Stephen, this is pure hypocrisy, is it not? I mean, she was on Twitter calling out the last government for stagnating the economy. We're in worse economic conditions, potentially, than they were. I mean, she's a hypocrite, right? At the bare minimum.
I think she is a hypocrite, and I just love the idea about Kwasi Kwarteng, because at the time that he was actually being fired for exactly the same sort of reasons, he was wearing the similar sort of outfit and suit that we're wearing at the same time. We're obviously in the stylish... Suzanne's got the rose between the two thorns that are coming here. And she's in such a big hole, she needs a whole set of moles to dig her out. So there we are. We're going to throw
I love it.
that back in. But, yeah, you know, you've got to look at the way that she has come in. She has seemed erratic to me in many ways in some of these statements that she's coming through. But really, when she's turning around and saying that she's got the whole of the economy set, that public finances are set, and yet she's got worse debt figures coming in.
Yes.
The markets have risen interest rates to a higher level than that of Liz Truss. And we've already seen markets fall. We've got the AIM market now collapsing by another 6%. Companies relisting in other countries, and business people turning around and saying this is only the start, with sterling falling too. So all the major macroeconomic figures that we have are not pointing to a government that is in control of its finances, but the market saying a government that is losing control, but quickly.
JJ, sorry, Suzanne, go on.
No, I was just going to say the AIM market falling, as Stephen said, because she removed the inheritance tax relief off that junior stock market. So it's a disaster. I mean, the stock market, the FTSE's hit 100's hit an all-time high today. But that is only because she's crashed the economy. So the Bank of England is going to have to reduce interest rates. So, of course, it's gone up.
Yeah.
Well, JJ, look, we've got to restore business confidence. You know, business confidence is at an all-time low. I mean, the only way to do that when the Tories had the mini-budget was to sack the Prime Minister, sack the Chancellor, and reaffirm to the country and to the business community that things are going to change. Surely, that we set a precedent. We have had business leaders calling for her to go.
If we sack Starmer...
Is it wait, to protect... I mean, you're saying that Keir Starmer's keeping her in as a shield.
Yeah, essentially.
What do you think
if you sack Starmer, who are you going to put in place that's going to make everything stable? I don't think there's a leader in the Labour Party who can take over. I really don't think there is. I would rather at this point have Sunak back in power than have anyone else in Labour.
Suzanne, then.
I'd rather have Suzanne in power than Starmer.
Suzanne in power, and I'll become the Chancellor. I'm perfectly happy with that.
Quite frankly, Rishi Sunak spent tons of British taxpayer money. Maybe
he did.
Quite well, the Labour Party would.
With Rachel Reeves, don't forget, before they were in power, all the business leaders were saying how great she was. She was doing tours. They were like, "We're going to have stability again. This is what we need. This is going to be great." All this, whether she lied or whether she said stuff that she wanted to do and it hasn't happened, the people who I don't know anything about business, the people who know about business said she was great. Suddenly now, those people are saying, "Oh, no good."
The changing story here was the £22 billion black hole that we don't hear the end of.
Well,
I question that.
It was also, you read the Labour Party manifesto, as I did actually yesterday. She said it was going to be the most pro-business government ever. And then she did what she did at the budget, £70 billion extra in public spending, $25 billion slammed on business.
If you look at some,
they're backtracking.
And JJ's right about the way that there was a love-in between the business community. But if you look at that business community, I heard the interview with Lord Wolfson on Radio 4 yesterday, the way that they are subtly backtracking in the way, I may well have supported her. You know, she did look at it right, but she's just not really helping. They're actually stating that she's damaging the economy really badly, but not wanting to hurt her too much, because by doing so, it actually means that they themselves should be open to criticism too.
Can I also...
Too close to her.
Sorry, just to add, Suzanne said she read the manifesto last night of Labour. Babe, we've got to get you out more, darling. You can't be at home doing that. Come on.
You didn't read it, did you? I bet you were just watching all the clips. I know exactly what you were doing.
It's actually really is interesting, actually. I do like to read party manifestos after the election.
She's a political consultant. She's got to do this.
She's doing a job.
Suzanne's like the Ted Cruz. He would go to parties and read the Constitution of the United States on dates.
One more thing that's in that manifesto.
Go on, enlighten us.
That manifesto says that they're going to spend £1 billion on carbon capture. It ended up being what? 21 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all terrible, terrible.
So, I mean, what have we got to do here? I mean, has there got to be an emergency budget, Stephen? Have we got to have an emergency budget, reset the standards, cut,
I think they're
go into austerity?
I think two things they're going to try and do. First of all is keep Rachel Reeves, because they know the basic principle of politics. If you allow your first head to go, then it opens up. They've already let a couple of minor ones go, but a major one to go, that opens up the door. And the second one is they will try and hold on as long as possible, at least till April, before they have any view on doing some more budgets. Because if they do that, that rattles the markets. The fact that she comes too early, then the bond markets will come out and the bond market vultures will start looking at what will be interesting is amongst those big bond market vultures are BlackRock and Fink is a big funder and donor to Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. Will they actually bite the hand that is currently feeding them?
That's really interesting. JJ, do you think there's a conflict between what the Prime Minister wants in terms of growth and this high tax, high debt budget that we've got here? Surely we've got to look at some of the ideas that Liz Truss had, cut to grow the economy.
Perhaps. I used to deride the Tories as being out of touch. Sunak had his swimming pool that cost £20 million a year to heat, or whatever the price was. I thought they were a party that went out of touch with the working man. I thought Labour was supposed to be my party. They were the ones who were going to help the working man. They're not going to tax the working man. They're going to put more money in our pocket.
Are we getting a live JJ?
I'm joining Reform. No.
One at a time. Spirit is in the room with us.
Not only are we wearing the same clothes, I was supporting Tony Blair. As he became Prime Minister, I moved away from him, realising the socialists weren't the ones helping the working class. And now I'm feeling it from this side. Come to the right. Come to the right.
Talking of money, all right, talking of money. We've got to move on.